That's important.
But we've got to get to charity.
Yeah, but I think if we just at least start with
Okay.
getting folks.
Dumb.
And then I'll go back to and introduce her. Would you like? And then I throw it to you.
Either that, or I'll just mention her. I don't know. Like after I say a little bit about the layers and
then you can jump in
and connections. After I do that, then I can either introduce Charity or you can start. I don't know. We got it there.
No, why don't you introduce her?
Okay.
Because
I'm talking anyway.
Yeah. Just keep going with it. And I loved how you had like a little sentence for each of them, like love and the nature of compassionate self-care with vulnerability is great for that.
Yeah, it's just
that intro.
I didn't have much except that's what I talked to them about.
So just introduce and then start question,
okay.
And then I'll jump in when I think.
Okay.
Okay. I am going to go with the flow, and I have nothing prepared either.
We got time. Good.
Just made sure that all the stuff you sent me is in my grid, so I've got it.
All right. Okay.
It's going to be fun.
For farmers, also, environmental benefits, and it's multiple. It's not just one thing, right? And I think now is an exciting phase of how those cropping systems, the understanding of managing them, are incorporated into the existing system.
Rich Biscay, Director of Protection, the Nature Conservancy in Minnesota. Last minute, anything else you'd like to say? Perhaps the website or how people can learn more?
Yeah, nature.org. You can find us. For Minnesota, we got more information on our work in agriculture and other ways to protect biodiversity and address climate change.
Well, thank you so much for your work, and thank you for pushing forward the vision of an abundant society that works for pollinators, works for humans, works for soil, healthy water, deep, healthy soil. Let's make that our future. So you're listening to Food Freedom Radio, and I thank you so much for your time.
I'm talking to it's pretty good over here, woman.
Crooner's Supper Club invites you to enjoy drinks, a delicious dinner, and live music from both big-name local and national artists in a wide array of styles. Before or after your show, check out the new Maggie's Lounge, a perfect spot to visit with friends. It's open Wednesdays through Sundays beginning at 4:30 with cocktails and light fare. And you don't need a ticket to enjoy the great atmosphere of Maggie's. Crooner's Supper Club off Moore Lake and Highway 65. A little piece of old-school nightlife in the 21st century.
This is the Being Curious Show. I'm Brian Mariani, founder of No Shift Own.
And I'm Kelly Wagner, publisher of Edge Magazine. Our show is about curiously connecting teachers and seekers on a wide range of topics in a safe space.
And our intention is that these conversations spark your own curiosity that creates a life that totally lights you up.
We are on AM 950, Sundays at 2 p.m. and all podcast platforms. See you soon and stay curious.
Hey, Minnesota, it's Brad Friedman, host of the Bradcast. You're listening to AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
For the Daily Yonder and Public News Service, this is the news from rural America. Congress reauthorizes the Farm Bill this year, and those who do the work want their voices to count as much or more than large corporations.
Farmers and local communities should be the ones making the decisions about what kind of a food system they want.
Margaret Crum-Lukens with Rural Advancement Foundation International USA says Big Ag already has a stronghold on industry processes and funding and should not be allowed to dictate ag rules for small farmers like contract terms and how they use their own seed.
Small-scale farmers and beginning farmers can be at a real disadvantage when it comes to accessing federal resources.
Renewed every 5 years, the massive legislation impacts farmers' access to credit, crop insurance, commodity programs, pretty much everything related to food. That includes SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program formerly known as food stamps. It helps nearly 42 million people put food on the table. Extra pandemic emergency benefits helped many the past few years, but those are about to end. Anya Slepian has details.
The pandemic phase of COVID-19 will be declared officially over in May. Already, some SNAP payments will stop in March, and the pre-pandemic work requirements are set to return in June.
This is going to leave many families, particularly those in rural America, struggling to put food on the table as benefits will drop about $90 per month for some people.
Cassidy Pont, with the nonprofit Save the Children, says the impending loss could have severe consequences for vulnerable populations. Rural areas have the most SNAP recipients, partly due to higher rates of poverty and fewer grocery stores.
Nearly 90% of counties with the highest food insecurity rates are rural, and about 1 in 5 rural children are facing hunger.
Pont and other advocates want Congress to expand SNAP access and eligibility in the next Farm Bill to account for rising food and other costs. I'm Anya Slepian.
There's also Feeding the Soul, and a barn in Fayette County, Texas has been home to the world's most famous bard for more than 50 years.
What I started doing at the
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
The future of car shopping is here right now at Rudy Luther Toyota with Luther Direct. It's car shopping without ever leaving your home. Go to rudyluthertoyota.com, click on Luther Direct. Choose any vehicle in Rudy Luther Toyota's current inventory, either new or certified pre-owned. Then find out what kind of value you can get for your trade-in, review a payment plan you qualify for, and then customize it, and then set up a time for Rudy Luther to drop off your new vehicle and pick up your trade-in. It's that simple. Your new vehicle without any of the hassle. Check out Luther Direct today at rudyluthertoyota.com.
This is Angela Warner with Warner Stallion. As a mother of 5, believe me, I'm all about getting the best deals. I'm always looking for a way to save money without compromising on quality. I guess it runs in the family, because at Warner Stallion, we have a team of buyers who are obsessed with getting appliance deals that no one else has. Like right now, we have thousands of appliances in stock at the best price. Then we give you an extra 5% back and fast free delivery. Put us to the test and see for yourself at our 10 Minnesota stores and at warnerstallion.com.
On This Queer Book Saved My Life, we talk with LGBTQ guests about the queer books that saved their lives. On our next episode, we chat with Suyani Oliveira about the book Stone Butch Blues by Leslie Feinberg. We discuss how Stone Butch Blues opened up a whole new world for Suyani and how it inspired the life-giving work she does at the New Haven Pride Center. You can listen to This Queer Book Saved My Life at 7 a.m. every Saturday morning right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or a fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067, or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
With your AM 950 weather, this is Dan Riva. Today, sunny, high 44. Tonight, freezing fog, low 20. Tomorrow, partly sunny, high 40. If you're thinking about a switch to solar energy but aren't sure if it's right for you, check out All Energy Solar's winter webinar. Electrical grid space is limited, so get yourself on the list now. Sign up at allenergysolar.com/webinar.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Good morning and welcome to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I am so glad that you have made the connection and are with us today. I'm Lori Fitz, your host. And the goal of our show is to explore a wide range of topics that challenge us to see ourselves, our community, and the world around us in ways that get us thinking, get us talking, get us imagining, get us connected, and perhaps inspired or challenged to do just a bit more because we made the connection. Hosting with me today is Rick Bernardo.
Good morning.
Good morning. And our topic, as we look at February, which is traditionally the month that people think of love and big hearts, well, we're going to kick off a series on the diversity of love connections. And Rick, you've been giving some thought to this. Tell us what you've been thinking about in terms of this. You You've created this series for us.
Well, it's in process, just like love is always.
Yes.
And especially if you love talking with people and listening and learning. There's just, everybody knows there's so many different kinds of love, forms of love, experiences of love. I've heard people say, I love this person, or I just met this person and I've been in love before, but not this way. And then it's almost like there's different flavors.
So the Baskin Robbins of love.
Yeah, it may be literal sometimes, maybe not. There's different voices of love. In the wisdom traditional language, there would be almost like there's different spirits of love and layers. So I always think of this as the way I think of anything deep or possibly spiritual. There's a vertical dimension and there's a horizontal dimension. There's a depth or lack thereof in some kinds of love, and there's also a breadth. There's a connection, very much like every time you introduce Connections Radio, I think of a depth and breadth of that. We're trying to explore things within us and between us, and how deep can we go into that, and so we can navigate the whole human experience.
And you always do a wonderful job bringing interesting people on these topics. And you've got some terrific folks joining us today.
We do. And first, we have with us Charity Barlass. She works as the principal of Return to You Coaching. She's also a songstress and a sound alchemist. I'm still vibrating from the sound bath. I took a bath in sound, or a sound in bath, same thing, Studio One Yoga some weeks ago. She's the author of Let the Light In, a wonderful, I'll let her say a little more about that if she wants, but it's a wonderful book you can find online. She's an energy worker, and we featured her on our January 21 broadcast as we were looking towards the year 2023. So good morning, Charity.
Good morning.
Good to hear your voice. You and I had spoken about being together this morning with Lori. And, basically your whole stand on relationships and love, just say a little bit about that and what return to self mean, just basically open slate, what is really where the good energy is for you and where you want to go with people.
Absolutely. I believe wholeheartedly we are here to remember that we are love, embody it, and mirror it to others. And we're inundated with messages of not being worthy enough, and you need this in order to feel whole, or whatever the outside message is. And so my primary goal when working with clients is to remind them that they are whole and perfect as they are, and how important it is to integrate different parts of oneself to actually see and feel that they are love.
And Charity, do you experience that? Is it clear to you that sometimes people are just sort of missing that in some, particular way, or sometimes a number of ways, especially in a relationship? I can imagine, a lot of times I look back and I go, well, I was kind of in that relationship, but I wasn't even addressing this other aspect of myself, and that was out of balance. Does that kind of thing happen?
Absolutely. I mean, if you think of movies, for example, there's so much programming around codependency, and if someone doesn't actually do intentional work around that to gain the interdependence for a healthy relationship, oftentimes the default is codependency. And so in romantic relationships, oftentimes more than not, you'll see people saying, oh, well, you complete me, or I need you in order to breathe. But that's actually really unhealthy.
It could be dangerous, I could think. I kind of like the romantic part of it, but it's got a dark side.
Well, I think
it's like balance.
It
right?
feeds a certain part of a storyline, that, and I appreciate what you bring up. We see this in the media. I think there's almost a mediated reality that we then compare ourselves to.
Oh yeah.
And in that comparison, I think marketing plays a role in this, in that they
Oh,
want
yeah.
to play on our fears. And so if we aren't good enough or we don't match that, there's the magic thing that we can buy that will complete us. Whether that's a person that completes us, and if they don't, then we have to have some sort of magical accessory to attract them to complete us. So do you go through some of that untangling of what the pressures are to buy and to have?
Absolutely.
And what's that like? How do you address that?
Oftentimes it's just continuing to ask the person that I'm working with, why? What's the root? Why are you feeling that way? Or where do you think that stemmed from?
Yeah.
Is that your truth, or is that a programmed truth?
And where's that story? What is that story? And where did you
Exactly.
first
Exactly.
buy in or believe in that story?
Yeah.
Exactly. But one of the most powerful analogies that I've heard, I actually heard it from Peter Crone. He's a life coach, and he said, remember yourself as an infant. Like, truly visualize yourself as an infant. Feel into the love, the pure source energy that was present. Like, you're still that at your core. You just have to shed certain things that you're not.
I love that. Someone told me not that long ago that we are all our ages. We are an infant because we were an infant. We're 5 years old because we were 5 years old. We're 13, we're 29, we're 52, we're all those things all at the same time. It's not something that is the past. It's more our own layers that at any moment we can be anything we want in our ages because we've been there. We know that.
I know
Absolutely.
when I teach ethics, there's this idea of voices in our heads. It comes up a lot because I really want people to be able to recognize that we have more than one voice going on within our beings. And I use the example of, like, if your significant other says, Rick, we need to talk, and like, no, I don't. My 6-year-old is running away now. And people kind of get that, or at a job or in a relationship. If somebody says something like that, you go back to like childhood very easily. And it's, if you can recognize that, and then you have to get
I
to the
more
bottom
often
of it.
go back to my teenage years and become terribly rebellious. You what?
Good to have a set point there as a teen. That's good.
You don't tell me anything.
Who are you looking at?
Exactly.
I know.
But that does give us choice, which is
Yeah.
nice. And we could recognize, I'm sorry, my 13-year-old just came out, but I will get my my more mature 50-something in
Yeah.
relationship now.
I just gotta say,
Well, the awareness and the integration of all of that too is so key, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because then we can tap deeper into that choice and how we show up.
Well, I still know I used to be the king of people pleasing, because as the eldest child in my family, it was just I mediated everything, and I learned to get good at that, which is a good skill. But in a relationship, it actually led to me not being straight with people about what I needed. Can you get that? Yeah, I'm sure we've all been seen that in other people. It's easy to see in other people, but when it's yourself, so.
I think that can
Absolutely.
get funneled into the indirect. Because I think I vary between being a people pleaser and something else.
Well, and if you feel into the root of people pleasing, it's to try and gain love and belonging.
Well,
and so when we can recognize that that's a pattern and that there's levels of self-abandonment,
and Charity,
we can breathe and pause.
I was going to say, you would mention if it's part of a program, that's different than if it's actually, no, I'm really choosing this with my whole self. That's a very different set of circumstances.
Absolutely. So circling back to awareness, I mean, awareness is everything. And sometimes it's super painful to look at those patterns. And I mean, I'm a former people pleaser as well, and sometimes still get stuck in that loop. But if I pause and connect to center within myself and ask, is this something I authentically want to do? Am I showing up authentically as myself?
I know what we'd like to do and explore in the next part of our broadcast is what does that look like with people? What kind of tools, what kind of methods do you use? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It ranges. It really depends on where the person is within their journey.
Okay.
But I often utilize meditation, sound healing.
And I promise, Charity, we're going to give you a lot of good time to have us explore all of this. And I just want to thank the audience for joining us on Connections Radio Show on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. We're going to be taking a commercial break, but we'll be right back. So stay tuned for the diversity of love connections.
Winter is here, and there's a good chance your home isn't being heated efficiently. And it's likely because of air sealing and insulation problems. Inadequate attic insulation is the leading contributor to high energy bills, cold rooms, and ice dams. Great news, the energy-efficient pros at Snap Construction can fix it all. Stop the heat from leaking out and save. Call 612-333-SNAP or visit snapconstruction.com for your free infrared energy inspection. Install with Snap Construction and qualify for over $750 in rebates and incentives. State and city programs are now offering 0% financing for qualifying insulation upgrades. So call Snap Construction for your free insulation energy consultation and start saving on your energy bills. Call 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit snapconstruction.com. Snap Construction is arguably the most well-reviewed insulation and exterior contractor in the metro area. Visit snapconstruction.com.
Let Next Chapter Booksellers help you find the perfect Valentine's Day gift for your significant other. After all, books last longer than flowers and are better for you than chocolate. The friendly staff at Next Chapter Booksellers are great at making personal recommendations, no matter the taste of your special someone. Plus, they have beautiful cards to add a little something to your gift. So sweeten this year's Valentine's Day with something thoughtful from Next Chapter Booksellers off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul. More at nextchapterbooksellers.com.
Hey, it's Patrick. February is the month for love, but when was the last time you gave your carpet the love and attention it really deserves? If your carpet hasn't been professionally cleaned, you are breathing unhealthy levels of nasty dirt, dander, bacteria, and germs that keep recirculating again and again. And what's worse, you're going to be stuck inside breathing that nasty stuff for months. Lucky for you, Zero Res is going to spread the love for you and your home with their Love Your Rug special. Get 3 rooms, Zero Resified from the Twin Cities' #1 carpet cleaner starting at just $119. Plus, this month only, they are throwing in a free hallway to sweeten the deal. But hurry, this deal won't last long. And because love has no limits, Zero Res is going to take $75 off your air duct cleaning. You owe it to yourself and your family to breathe healthy, happy, and clean. Call Zero Res right now, 952-ZERO-RES, or go online at ZeroResMinnesota.com and say you want the AM 950 special. Zero Res.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. Even though Auto Technical is a small nonprofit, we have helped more families with transportation than any organization in Minnesota. Since '94, we have reconditioned donated vehicles so they have a higher tax benefit. Call Richard at 612-919-5526, 612-919-5526, or autotech.org.
Good morning. I'm Lori Fitz, and welcome to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm glad you've joined the conversation, and hosting with me today is Rick Bernardo as we discuss the diversity of love connections.
That's still me. Thanks, Lori. Good to see you. And we have with us for our first 2 segments of Connections Radio, Charity Barlass, who is a songstress, sound alchemist, and is the principal in Return to You Coaching. And we've been speaking with her about, I don't think we've used the word authenticity, how we get back to our root selves and rather than things that we learn to adjust or move or decenter ourselves from. Good morning, Charity.
Good morning.
So good to hear your voice again. And I try to tell people, not for too long because it's kind of hard, what it was like. I went to a sound bath that you did one evening at Studio One Yoga. And it's just one of many tools you use. So that's one thing we wanted to just hear a little more about that and any other tools you use in order to have people, notice if something is kind of running them. You use the word maybe programming, and there's other words you were using, but also return to themselves. So, yeah, you could you say a little more about some of those tools that you use to help people notice and have choices?
Absolutely. So when one attends a sound bath, um, it essentially resets the nervous system. Oftentimes, we're inundated with so much in our daily lives that we don't even realize we're disassociated from our own bodies and dysregulated in some way, oftentimes in fight, flight, or freeze. And so, when someone experiences a sound bath, their nervous system gets to go,
It's a reset.
back to rest and digest. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like
Um,
it's like when the electricity goes down, you're
Absolutely.
able to then flip the switches back, so you turn
Absolutely.
the electricity back on again.
What's the circuit breaker
Yeah.
or fuse? When hopefully the fuse isn't totally blown.
Yeah. And I will say that it's, the experiences, everybody's experience is different. Someone who attended my last sound bath, she told me that she had this visual of her slaying a dragon.
Oh.
And so we connected. Yeah, it was really powerful. And so we connected on that. And I said, well, what do you think that means to you? I said, are you navigating some challenging aspects right now? She said, absolutely. And I'm like, well, what do you think slaying that dragon means? And she's like, I got this. I'm like, yeah, you do.
You go, girl.
You absolutely do.
And that's
Yes.
from the experience of, and I don't want to skip over this, Charity. We're using the word sound bath, but so many people have no idea what we're talking about yet. And I'm still learning. I'm still vibrating from this experience. But could you let's just paint a picture of like you go to a sound bath and what does that look and sound like? I know there's sound.
Absolutely. I mean, they've been around for thousands of years. The indigenous cultures know very well how powerful sound baths are. And now it's in mainstream. I mean, it's now on reality TV sometimes. But essentially, I have sound bowls, and they're attuned to the different chakras within the body. And I play the sound bowls, and they emit a frequency. And I also sing through my drum.
Sing through, yeah. Okay, that rings a bell, and literally and otherwise. How many bowls do you always have the same number of bowls that you sort of you kind of go around the rim and it makes this it evokes this amazing set of tones. But how many bowls do you use, or is it always the same?
Yes, they are the same. I am going to be adding another bowl soon to my family of bowls, but as of right now, I play with 6. And then I
Charity,
also,
Charity,
yes,
would you just name the chakras that those 6 and how the bowls are tuned to those? Because I think that's interesting too. My guess is if a chakra is a little out of whack, the bowl may help open that up.
absolutely. So the chakras, or the bowls that are attuned to the different chakras, are the root chakra, which is down in your sacral or your sacrum area.
Oh yeah.
And then your sacral chakra, and then the heart chakra, the throat chakra, and the crown.
And
so the crown is your head.
And it'd be interesting if there was a chakra that the woman who felt like she could go slay the dragon, if there was a particular chakra that felt like, or a few that seemed to open up for her through that experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, everybody's experience, it ranges, but I've also had a woman say that her heart just felt so closed for so long due to some heartbreak. And she physically felt her heart open within the experience. And actually, it brought tears to my eyes. It was just so beautiful to hear that, because our hearts are so incredibly powerful.
And it brings back to me your overall goal that we've talked about in the past, about how both love and nature creates an opportunity for compassion and self-care, and how you help as a guide to make those discoveries with people.
Absolutely. Nature is absolutely incredible. I mean, first of all, we are nature, right? So it's like what we see in nature is also a beautiful mirror. But if a client is having a hard time regulating oneself, I invite them to spend, even if it's just 10 minutes in nature a day, because nature activates all the senses. And so when one is in nature, it also helps regulate the system.
And for me, getting back, because we're Connections radio show, there's a deep connection that we can start exploring when we're allowing ourselves to, be with the trees.
Absolutely.
You can, after a while, I think you really can start sensing how the trees are welcoming you in and communicating with each other. And it is magical if we allowed ourselves to see the magic. And that, I think that's part of the barriers that we can hit, is how do we take that time, and you called it a pause, to allow ourselves to really drink in the connection of nature.
Absolutely. Just being still in nature, watching the waves on the lake, and listening to the wind in the trees, the rustling of the leaves.
That is wonderful.
So sacred.
Yes, I'm there with you. So I want to mention Instagram.com/IamCharityBarlass. Charity, just like the word, BARLASS. That's a website I'm giving out. If you want to peek in on some of the sights and sounds of Charity's work. Anything else, Charity, before we generally, we'll talk to you more again. Anything else you want to say as we part?
Just to remember the love that you are, especially this time of year. I know that especially in February, it's more about romantic relationships, but love is in all forms and in everything. And so I invite you to remember that.
And one thing that strikes me, Charity, is that we can have a romantic love for ourselves. I mean,
absolutely.
and make the discoveries that we're so excited about when we're in relationship can also happen when we're in really good relationship with ourselves. And I think that's what you bring to our awareness today, is how are we loving ourselves and making a commitment to love ourselves.
Absolutely. You could be your own best lover. And then that will be mirrored.
All right. I have a date tonight now.
Thanks so much, Charity, for joining us today. And I want to thank the audience for being part of our conversation, making the connections, and enriching our relationships. We'll be right back, and we'll continue our conversation on the diversity of love connections.
Do you or someone you know need dental care but can't afford it? Join Shamblat Family Dentistry for their 15th annual Dentistry from the Heart event, a day of free dentistry for those in need. All patients will be seen on a first-come, first-served basis. No appointments required. Dentistry from the Heart provides free, limited dental care to those in need. This event is for new patients only. Shamblat Family Dentistry has given away more than $450,000 in free dentistry through Dentistry from the Heart. The 15th annual event will take place on Tuesday, February 14th at Shamblat Family Dentistry in both their Hopkins and St. Paul locations. Starting at 7 a.m., Dr. Shamblat and his team will treat as many patients as possible. Again, it's first come, first served, so patients should arrive early. For more information about this opportunity for free dental care with Dentistry from the Heart on February 14th, visit ShamblatFamilyDentistry.com. That's ShamblatFamilyDentistry.com, or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
Hey, Cudahy, this is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. On our show, we talk about Native issues like treaties, protecting Mother Earth, and holding our elected officials accountable. Weekly correspondents like Dr. Stately, State Senator Mary Kunesh, Robert Lilligren, and Bob Blake update us with Native news that you won't hear anywhere else. Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues. Listen weeknights from 6 to 7 p.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hi, this is Kirk Dogwall with the House Geeks and host of the Twin Cities Real Estate Show here on AM 950. Why do our listings sell for 9% more than our competition? Because we not only know how to market houses, we know our local market and how to leverage it. If you're thinking of selling and would like not just a market analysis, but a House Geeks total market overview, then give me a call at 651-303-0019 or find me online at housegeeks.com.
Hi, this is Laura, and I want to tell you about my family's favorite thing. It's our wood stove. We bought it about 14 years ago from Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. And see, the wood stove has actually paid for itself because we can keep the main area that we live in toasty warm with this great moist heat. But more important than saving money, it has actually improved our lives. Having a fire simplifies life. It provides comfort. It sort of takes the chill out of winter.
I'm Peter Solak. In 1977, I started Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, and I experienced the simple joy of warming myself by a fire. I also realized that the place and the way we embrace fire has evolved in a diversity of forms and styles. So at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, we have brought together the widest selection of our fireplace products and technical knowledge in the Twin Cities. Our mission is to use our knowledge to help you choose the design and function that is right for you and your home.
Visit Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces today and find the right fire for you.
With your AM 950 weather, this is Dan Riva. Today, sunny, high 44. Tonight, freezing fog, low 20. Tomorrow, partly sunny, high 40. Get a piece of old-school nightlife at Crooner's Supper Club with mouth-watering dinners and the hottest live music. Crooner's is located just north of I-694 on Highway 65 in Fridley. Check out their website at croonersmn.com.
This is AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Good morning and welcome back to Connections Radio Show. I'm Lori Fitz. And co-hosting with me today is Rick Bernardo as we talk about ideas that matter. And today we're exploring all kinds of diversity of love connections. Rick, you've been thinking about this and kicking off the series today on this?
I think, but also we want to put it into action sometimes. And having a discussion, having a dialogue, actually a conversation can transform everything. That's where I learn everything. Even if it's sometimes a conversation with myself, I got to sit down for the voices in my head and have that. But this morning, after speaking with Charity Barlass, we're also going to be speaking with Kirsten Lind Seal. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist in the Twin Cities. And again, our topic is the many shades and forms and voices and spirits and contexts for love. And she's been working for years. Right now, she does a virtual private practice, completely virtual. It's a real practice, but it's, online, a private practice where she works with individuals, couples, and all sorts of families. And she also can be seen regularly on WCCO's TV's mid-morning show. It's called Relationship Reboot, that deals with relationships. And good morning, Kirsten.
Good morning, Rick. Good morning, Lori.
Good morning, Kirsten. When we were talking with Charity, we were talking about some expectations that people can put on themselves and not feel like they always live up to it. And what I love about the work that you do is that you do that
with couples having, the expectations over the span of the relationship and lives that can either kind of help or hurt building that relationship?
Yes. Expectations are really an important thing to pay attention to. I think we very often have sort of unspoken expectations about ourselves and others in a lot of different aspects of our lives. But I will quote the fabulous Anne Lamott, who has a great saying about expectations, and it goes like this: expectations are resentments under construction.
Oh, that's great. It's true.
Isn't that great?
It's true.
It's so pithy. And it's so true.
It's not. It doesn't take much to tip over from one to the other.
Indeed. And here's the thing. I mean, it's not like we'll be able to. It's not like we can say to ourselves, "Oh goodness, I have to not have any expectations." I mean, we're always going to have, we expect when we open our eyes and it's like after 9 a.m., depending on where you are, Central Time, that there's going to be some form of sunlight, right? Like we have certain expectations about things, but when we have unexamined expectations about what our relationships are going to be like, that's where we can really run into trouble. And in much of my work, I think, looking at it sort of conceptually, I spend a lot of time helping people figure out what their expectations are, whether they're realistic or not, and how to then navigate the difference between their expectations and those of their loved ones, whether that's a spouse or a partner or a family member, right, or a friend. So,
and some of those expectations, I have to believe, are based in a storyline, either the storyline that came from their family, or the storyline that they see on TV, or the storyline that they see from their friends, and somehow it comes from, I'm less than unless these expectations are met.
Right. Yes. I mean, untold numbers of clients, and then also friends of mine too, who I see, and of course myself too. I have these expectations about what it means. Like, we're sort of encouraged to get into some sort of romantic relationship, and if we don't have one, then we're less than somehow. And then, oh, by the way, once you get into a romantic relationship, it's supposed to be a certain way, right? And this idea, I loved the conversation with Charity around, the you complete me type of idea. And again, and we can really, like, you can connect it to, again, all sorts of, Lori, I think it was you who said about marketing, like, to sell these things, to sell us on the idea that somehow we are not enough,
right?
To sell us on the idea that we need somebody else to complete us, or by the way, new shoes, or a big box of chocolates or flowers. And not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's not that.
It's almost like a creation of a fear, and then giving you the solution to that fear.
Yes.
But if we could look at and not be pulled into, wait a minute, that's fear-based. And
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of our behaviors in relationships are actually fear-based, right? That's the interesting thing, because the truth is, when we love, there's always the risk of losing, whether that's to a breakup or to divorce or to death, right? Like when we love, we put our hearts out there. But as the Dalai Lama says, like, to live with an open heart is sort of the highest good. And so that's just sort of how it is.
I've also been sort of intrigued by the idea that it's over. You're never, you stop loving that person. And I don't think that happens. Yeah. I think the love may change, but there's an acceptance that this isn't the right fit to really keep fulfilling each other's who we want to be in life.
Right.
And that you can still keep loving a person, even if you're not with them. And cherish what they were to you, but not have that be who you are partnering with. And that sense of it's over and you should shut the door and never think about it. Well, I think that's kind of sad, because they added to your life in some way.
Right. Well, it's such an either or way of thinking. It's like you're with this person and you adore them and you love them and they complete you, et cetera, et cetera. And then if you break up, though, all of a sudden they're out of your life. I will tell you that I think the most evolved people, and this isn't true for, if there's abuse involved or really affairs, right? Not the three hard things we say, the 3 A's: abuse, addiction, and affairs, right? Like So outside of that, though, I think when people are able to still be in relationship in some way, shape, or form with their exes, I think that can be really healthy and functional for everybody involved. This is particularly true when we're talking about people who divorce and who share children.
Right.
Because once you share children, right, like you're, no matter how you've got these children, you are a family, and you'll always be a family no matter what the couple at the head of that family decides to do about their particular couple relationship.
And Kirsten, I love that picture that you and Lori are painting here of it's that it really doesn't have to be absolute heaven on earth or absolute meltdown. There's a lot of different ways for the energy of love to take its form. And I'm thinking back to when my parents divorced. That was a big learning experience for me because we would have holidays together, and especially the first months of, okay, there's a divorce happening. And I was just heartsick. But I also started to learn it was during that period. My mom and dad, I can see they still love each other. I get choked up when I say that. I can see it.
Of course.
And I can see it. It's just going to be different now. And I didn't know. I'm still learning about that.
Right. Well, and that's such a huge gift that your parents gave you. That implies a real level of maturity, in terms of how they saw the family and how they saw, sort of what the impact that the divorce is going to have on the kids and on the family structure. That's a really that was a wonderful thing.
And the biggest gift for me,
it can be hard to do.
Yeah, the biggest gift for me is that they kept learning about themselves and sharing that with me. They would say, I look back now and I realize this and I realize that. What a wonderful model to have in a parent.
Right. Yes. No, you're exactly right. And then sometimes people stick together sort of quote unquote because of the children, but they actually hate each other and they're like tossing grenades over the wall. You know what I mean?
Not a real warm environment.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. But you know what this reminds me of, not that I'm a Greek scholar, but the Greeks had multiple different words for love, right? There was eros, which was erotic love, which is very powerful and passionate, that's where we have, as a society that's where we nail Valentine's to the wall, right? It's under eros. But what we're talking about here, I think, I love the word agape, which is sort of world love. And going back to that great Dalai Lama quote, that idea of an open heart. And that is, I think, honestly, if one were to ask me what I think the secret of life was, I would say, again, to have an open heart. And remember, I totally stole this from the Dalai Lama.
That's part of how we acquire anything, right? Is that we feel connected to it. It becomes part of who we are. I love agape as well. And it's interesting. It's the first time that I've thought about it this way when you talked about expectations. And when I think of agape, the first time someone was teaching me about agape, and I think it was probably a Presbyterian confirmation class, was looking at agape not having expectations. That agape was a state of being and not a state of having.
Right.
And the celebration of not having expectations, and I assume being very present in the moment is how you do that. And with a loving, kind heart.
Exactly. Exactly. The piece around loving kindness is also really important, which is one of the places where, and also I love that meditation was mentioned, because we also know there's massive neuroscience, especially in the last 5 or 10 years, neuroscience research around how meditation changes how our brain, the patterns of our brain, right, the neural pathways. And the loving kindness meditations actually really help us to create more loving kindness in ourselves, even though much of the meditation could be sending loving kindness out. We also then meditate on loving kindness for ourselves, which is a really important part, going back to the idea of the only person who can really complete us is us, right? Because then we bring a full self to someone else, and we're not little broken pieces of pottery that have to go find our little shards to glue together. Right?
And when you say that, it reminds me of a Japanese pottery that when something is broken, they pull it together with gold, because it is in our brokenness that we can celebrate who we are as well.
Yes. And there's a lot of different language that we can use around that, but basically the idea is that we can create our wholeness in ourselves, and it's something that we owe, again, in loving ourselves. right? We owe that to ourselves to sort of work on that in an ongoing fashion is how I look at it.
Kirsten, for our next segment, I'd love to have you be thinking about sharing with the audience what are some things, especially around Valentine's Day, to celebrate love in a new way for ourselves? I know one friend of mine does Galentine, so it's Gal's Night Out. It's
I love that.
Her Galentine celebration, and she brings her single girlfriends to go out and party with themselves. You've got some other ideas for us to be thinking, because it can be really tough on some people this time of the year in terms of they feel like, again, less than, or have fears of what it means not to be in relationship. We can be in relationship, and I'd love to have your advice on that.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
All right. We'll be right back after a few short commercials.
There really is no place like home. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Home Health. When you're faced with an illness or an injury, being able to stay at home and receive care is important. Our home health offers a wide range of services, including skilled nursing, physical, occupational, and speech therapies, aides, homemakers, in-home respite care, and 24/7 live-in care. We'll work closely with your primary care provider to come up with an individualized plan for you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
The Rick Smith Show.
Amazon Palm Pay. You can give Amazon your handprint and link it to your credit card and your phone number and all this, and you can just walk into their stores and just give them the palm. You'll never leave home without it. Brilliant. It's great. It's fabulous. It is amazing. Except you're giving your handprint to Amazon.
Tune in weeknights, 8 to 10 p.m. right here on KTNF AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Are your remote workers putting your company at risk? Not sure what steps to take to secure your data? Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. The Rymark team is guiding our clients through these difficult times. In fact, demand has been so high, we created an easy-to-follow guide with the 5 steps to securely work from home. It's yours free. Download our 5 steps to securely work from home now at rymarkit.com or call 651-328-8900 for a no-cost how-to discussion.
This is the Being Curious Show. I'm Brian Mariani, founder of No Shift Own.
And I'm Kelly Wagner, publisher of Edge Magazine. Our show is about curiously connecting teachers and seekers on a wide range of topics in a safe space.
And our intention is that these conversations spark your own curiosity that creates a life that totally lights you up.
We are on AM 950, Sundays at 2 p.m. and all podcast platforms. See you soon and stay curious.
Eat Local Minnesota is a great way to find locally owned Minnesota restaurants and food purveyors. You'll find high-quality food and unique eating experiences with dishes from around the world. Just visit eatlocalminnesota.com for your next meal. Come visit the award-winning Hazel's Northeast in Minneapolis for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or weekend brunch. For breakfast, try the slow-cooked brisket hash, hippie cakes, and meat waffle. While for lunch, enjoy favorites like the buttermilk fried chicken sandwich or veggie burger. Hazel's is open Tuesdays through Saturdays, 8 to 8, with a Sunday brunch from 8 to 2. Located off 29th and Johnson in Northeast Minneapolis. More at hazelsne2go.com. If you're craving barbecue, then don't drive too fast or you will miss Scott Jamama's Hot Barbecue, located at 3 West Diamond Lake Road in Minneapolis. Scott Jamama's offers mouth-watering baby back ribs, grilled chicken, and half-pound pulled pork sandwiches. The potato salad, spicy baked beans, and twice-baked potatoes should not be missed. More details at scottjamamas.com.
Welcome back to Connections Radio Show. I'm Lori Fitz, your host, and hosting with me today is Rick Bernardo. And we have been exploring love connections and the diversity of the types of love, as well as self-awareness. Tell me a little bit about something that you were thinking about during the break.
Me during the break. Well, you had just mentioned the Japanese bowl, and Kirsten had been talking about the different ways we can sort of put ourselves back together. But also, sometimes we have a breakdown that I know in my life, the biggest learning points about love is where I had a train wreck, and I had to look at the pieces and go, how did this happen? Otherwise, I never would have. And so I think I mentioned I used to be the king of people pleasing. And I had to learn that, I was kind of trying to control things by never actually owning up to, I really need this, or I really can't tolerate that. Just being honest. So, but there's also in that vein, there's a song by Peter Mayer called "The Japanese Bowl," and it's wonderful. Mayer is his last name. He's a local musician and songwriter. So you check it out. It'll make you cry, probably. All right.
And in the last segment, we asked Kirsten Lind Seal, who is joining us. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist in the Twin Cities. And I had asked her to give us some ideas, especially as we go into Love Week,
Yeah.
that has a lot of expectations around it. There's a lot of pressures and there's a lot of marketing, and that drives sales, we know. So what's another way that we can embrace, love? And you were mentioning Eros is what, is sort of drives the Valentine. But are there other types of loves that we can just take a pause, as our friend Charity, and take a pause and embrace this week and feel good about?
Absolutely. So what I would say is overall, thinking about expanding our definition of love, right? And thinking about the idea that we all so crave belonging. And some of us maybe are in long-term committed relationships, and maybe some are in new relationships, and maybe some are just out of relationship. But either way, we all have a circle of friends. And even if that circle is tiny, and what I would recommend is to text a Valentine's Day greeting to everybody in your circle. And so, because there's some really interesting new research around texting, even casual texting. And what's interesting is that the people who received the text, it meant so much more to them than the people who sent the texts thought it would mean. Talking of expectations, right? So what I would say is just a little text saying Happy Valentine's Day. I was just thinking, I have some really good friends from college. There are like 6 of us, and we are all scattered around the country, haven't seen each other since the pandemic. And I was just thinking, I'm going to send them a Valentine's Day text to say, hey, I love you guys. I miss you. Happy Valentine's Day. So this sending out of love to whoever. And sometimes people can think this is goofy, but if you're at the grocery store and you see a cashier that and just say, hey, Happy Valentine's Day, they'll probably look surprised, but I guarantee you it will make them feel a little shining of happiness.
Well, what it brings to mind is how the joy we felt when we were in 2nd grade and we brought those little tiny goofy Valentines and the joy. And it really comes down to, how do we look at Valentine's Day as more of an acknowledgement versus and so how are we acknowledging our friends? How are we acknowledging our family and just giving them the acknowledgement that they're loved? And not have other expectations besides, I want to acknowledge my feelings to you.
Well, and the other piece about it is that what you're doing then is you are bringing in, right? You are inviting people in, as opposed to this romantic idea that it's just sort of you and me against the world. And again, it's not that that's a bad thing in and of itself, but to have that be, it's me and my spouse, or me and my beloved, and all you guys, I don't know how you're doing, but right?
Gotcha.
It's a super narcissistic kind of way of looking at things, and I don't think it helps us. I don't think it helps us as a society and as a community.
And I love this image of that you're both describing about that sort of Valentine wish or intention with other people, because so much of the magic of life comes from possibilities. And what I'm seeing is this possibility of just knocking on that door of possibility with everybody. It doesn't have to go anywhere in particular, but it's the beginning of creating anything worthwhile in our lives. Is that sort of just greeting and reaching out, just being open, which itself is a powerful act of vulnerability.
And I know I bring up connection because, of course, I love it. And that's why we have that show. But it does create a healthier connection, I think, to be able to expand our circle of who we are acknowledging that we love. And we don't have to say to the cashier, perhaps, that we love them, but we can at least let them know that we care and that we want them to have a nice Valentine's Day.
I love you, man.
which is all very healthy. Well, I want to make sure, Kirsten, that folks know how to reach you. Should they want to engage in further conversation with you? KIRSTENLIND
SEAL.com. So that's Kirsten Lindseal.com. And if you just want to we have like a minute or so left. Are there some closing thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to this idea of we really need to sort of support and sort of work on ourselves, but not in a sort of yo kind of work way, but in a
I saw the Wicked Witch just go by.
See that? But in a loving, kind way. So the other thing I would say in terms of, you know, especially if you're feeling kind of lonely and sad on Valentine's Day, is think of something you'd really love to do. Like it occurred to me that I hadn't seen a show in the longest time, and you know, the Guthrie has Rush tickets. So I thought, maybe I can, you know, I do have a husband that I will celebrate Valentine's Day with, you know, hurrah, but maybe we'll go do that. Or maybe I'll go see a movie. Literally, I haven't seen a movie since the lockdown. But
Yeah,
like,
gotcha.
My husband just asked me the other day, are they showing movies again? Could we go out if we wanted to?
Yeah.
Yes,
and
they
it
are.
will seem like a huge treat. And so what I would say to folks is, even if you've got someone else to celebrate Valentine's Day with, do think of something lovely to do for yourself. And even if it's like a super fancy coffee at your neighborhood coffee shop, or a walk with your pet, you know, on a lovely day. And it looks like we might have some lovely days, you know, in the next couple of days, you know, grateful about it. So that's what I would say, you know, it's sort of spread the love around, but don't forget to spread the love to yourself.
You know what I'm hearing you say is you can give all these Valentines to all these people, but be sure you give a Valentine to yourself. And what does that look like?
Yes.
And I love, Kirsten, you talked about, everybody's been talking about expectations around that. There's an old martial arts saying, expect nothing, be ready for anything. And people like Kirsten can help us practice. Like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? How do we do that?
Well,
So
my
thank
wish,
you.
my wish for Valentine's is that everyone creates a very special Valentine for themselves and cherish it. So thank you for being a part of our conversation today, making the connections.
You're so welcome.
And enriching.
I had great fun.
Enriching our relationships. And we look forward to having our audience join us next week as we continue our Diversity of Love conversation.
Tune in for Philosophy Talk, the program that questions everything.
Except your intelligence.
Coming up, Righteous Rage.
Isn't vengeance kind of a bad thing?
Yeah, but anger can be a force for justice, and some things deserve anger, like race.